and hello for those just joining. I'm Pastor Coco, and today, instead of a study, we're going to have a few people step up to give their testimonies about how God's been working in their lives. And we're going to start with Tonic. Tonic, welcome.
Howdy, my name is Tonic. I'm a nerd who loves nature trails, gaming, and my two chihuahuas. Until recently, I'd been living outside of God's teachings. I'm glad that God has introduced me to this online church. Here, I get to learn about God, socialize with my fellow nerds, and play my favorite MMO. I first picked up Final Fantasy XIV a few years ago after hearing about its great story and free trial. This was years before Christ rescued me from my own past. Previously, I was living a lonely, stubborn, but successful life. I excelled at work and earned promotions almost every year. Due to my personal, mental, and emotional struggles, I developed a strong internal drive to always push myself harder and harder, to give it my all, just to make myself stand out among my coworkers. Everything I did was done with a rather harsh mindset of me versus them. I only cared about being better than my coworkers, my peers, my potential friends. They were my competition, obstacles that only took up more of my time. This selfish mindset allowed me to achieve my goals without relying on anyone else, sure, but at the cost of all of my social and romantic life. Since I prioritized self-reliance and had built my career and personal life on my ego and pride, I'd never taken the time to learn how to make friends, let alone keep them or develop stronger bonds. And I'm still making up for all those lost relationships all these years later. Back then, when I was still perfectly happy to rely on myself and trade my health for success in my career, I was assigned as the lead for a special statewide project that had the attention of not only our C-suite, but also plenty of important names outside of our company. Over the course of a year, I dedicated about 2,000 hours to this one project. Of course, not including the hours spent on my regular duties. Despite everything I tried to do to alleviate this project's sheer workload, it was never enough for me to come out ahead. As a consequence of my ego being in control of my decisions, the very idea of asking for or seeking out help or even admitting that I couldn't handle this on my own gave me anxiety, and I grew to fear losing everything I had spent years working towards. So I ultimately took on this burden for a year, alone, until I was taken to the ER due to complications with my heart, caused by, what do you know, chronic stress, anxiety, fear, depression, so on and so forth. When you are forced to spend over 3 hours stuck in a state of an uncontrollable sense of dread and fear that your heart is going to give out at any moment and that your life is effectively over, you tend to spend that time reevaluating a few things. Thankfully, after getting out of the ER and while recovering during my medical leave, I was watching some Final Fantasy XIV videos on YouTube, reliving the past, yearning to go back a few years to when I had first played 14. It was here that I finally noticed God reaching out to me by using YouTube's algorithm and showing me this this weird looking YouTube thumbnail that had this female aura VTuber like smiling back at me, smiling back at the viewer. It was a video about living a spirit-led life versus a self-led life. curious, I clicked on it, but admittedly not expecting anything worthwhile out of it. 3 days later, I wound up watching all of that church's recent videos, and I even downloaded their entire Final Fantasy XIV playlist onto my phone to listen to when I returned to work. Like, that's like a good 100 videos right there. I also joined their Discord server, and now I'm approaching my 1 year anniversary with this volunteer-led church that God used to rescue me from myself and used to help keep me grounded in His Word. Since joining this church, I've been taught so much on who God is, what He stands for, how He interacts with us, and how we can do better to live our lives for His glory instead of our own. Through our community discussions and study topics, I've learned about the importance of not only developing my interpersonal relationships and being comfortable with relying on others, but I've become much more open and enthusiastic about relying on God to help me through my problems and to give Him control over my life. On not just the important things either, but everything. With God's love and mercy and strength guiding me through this journey of change, I've successfully worked with my boss to obtain a much healthier workload. Before coming to know God, I couldn't have imagined this level of forgiveness and mercy being available to just anyone that sought after Him. It's thanks to this church that I'm even able to appreciate His genuine love for me. I've met so many kind-hearted nerds in this community. I first joined with fear of being rejected, afraid that I wouldn't be able to seek help here, much like the occasional stories we hear about from popular physical churches. However, through God's strength and the sheer openness and kindness of the people here, I quickly found myself forming perhaps the healthiest relationships that I've ever allowed myself to have. Yeah, as cheesy as it sounds, I've found a place to call my home. A place where my friends gather and where, even when discussing hard topics, we always speak from positions of love and guidance, not condemnation. If someone asked me about my thoughts on them joining an online church like this one, I'd immediately say, do it. Let God have the wheel for a spell. Nowadays, it's too easy for us to lose 4 or 5 hours of our own time just doom scrolling on YouTube. Why not give God 5 minutes of your time today and just join this church's Discord server? It's one thing to watch the church's videos on YouTube, but it's something else entirely to be a part of the community's discussion that goes on after the sermons, after the video ends. Thanks for listening, and God loves you.
Thank you for sharing, Tonic. That was an awesome story and encouraging, and I hope that that's an encouragement to other people out there. And so our next story is going to be Angels. Are you unmuted?
Sorry. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so hello. I am Angels and I'm an artist and my whole life revolved around creativity, being creative and using the gift entrusted to me by God to bring joy to people and give Him all the glory. And so growing up, I've always loved games, especially Japanese RPG games. and I've always been a fan of Final Fantasy VII. And 5 years ago, I started streaming my art for self accountability purposes, and I was able to build like a small community. And within that community, someone introduced me Final Fantasy 14, and I really enjoyed it. And currently, I'm still playing it, still here. Uh, a little background about me. So, I I've growing up, I've been a very sheltered girl since I'm the only girl amongst siblings, and my parents were very overprotective of me, and I didn't get to go out much and socialize with my peers. I always felt like I'm an outsider, and I never really thought much about myself because I felt unseen. I mostly spent my childhood days in my room alone, drawing a lot. And since my family wasn't that close and always kept to themselves, I misunderstood that they didn't love me at all. And because of that, I looked for love in the wrong places, to the point of secretly disobeying my parents and me ending up depressed and hurt. But despite all that, looking back, God has always protected me before things could get worse. And it was back in my college days that I first came to really know and experience God, through a classmate and now mentor who invited me to a youth Christian fellowship. There, I have accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. After meeting Christ and experiencing Him, He changed my life in ways I could never imagine. During my college years, my family had a huge financial fall, but surprisingly, that event made my family closer, and I was still able to finish my college education with no debt. There were hard times, but God always provided. And I started doing freelance work while studying, and whenever me and my family needed funds, God provided a project, and that went on until I graduated. And then when I graduated, I got hired immediately by a game company. I also learned how to be of service to other people, especially those who are growing and in need. That youth fellowship that I was invited to had different walks of life, like people in them with different social standing. But under Christ's banner, everyone was equal and helped each other. And there I learned to always be grateful and respond with generosity, because throughout my experience, God never lacked during my times of struggle. It has been a very colorful adventure so far. When I said yes to God, He led me to a colorful path. I met my husband, and we overcame a 3 year long distance relationship before getting married, and I moved with him to a different country. It was challenging to adjust to a new place and culture. It affected my mental health tremendously, but God gave me strength and many opportunities. He allowed me to meet wonderful people along the way, visit places, and experience things that I never would have imagined someone like me from a small town would experience. There are still dark moments in my life, but because of the relationship I have with Jesus Christ, I have a strong, immovable cornerstone that has always been my refuge. And on one of those dark moments is what led me here to VR MMO Church. I was still suffering internally from many years of pent up stress, hurt, and depression, from unhealed wounds, from friendships that got broken and became distant since I moved away, from sickness, the stress, and trauma. of supporting my partner from his struggles and many other things. It was getting too much that I often found myself in a cycle of depression, wanting to just disappear, and the feeling of neglect that I mostly dealt all alone. I will always wear a smiling mask and be that reliable person everyone knew, but deep inside I've been hurting, and it got worse each year. I discovered VR MMO Church early last year, around February, through a YouTube video. I saw a thumbnail of a male Viera character from the game, and the title immediately caught my attention. It's about God coming through. So I watched the story, that video, and that story resonated to me so much, especially on that time. God used this person's story to provide solace and strength. There were times I listened to the story several times in times of distress, as if God was reminding me that I am not alone and that He sees me. And after a day or so, I looked up VR MMO Church once again, and then I decided to join the Discord server. And the rest is history, recent history. And since then, God has shown me that true and pure love could exist in this world. While I love my friends and family, the wounds from my past experiences built a hidden distrust and anxiety towards people, only relying on God but not with the people He also loves. I always find myself too guarded, not letting the smiling mask slip. And but the wisdom and sincere care of the members left me in awe each time I would attend a service and discussion. It's as if God was melting that glass wall I had in front of me, showing me that true and pure love is possible. They have given me the strength and guidance to push through life, to make changes, the courage to confront my partner about the way he has treated me, courage to seek help and therapy to better myself, and to find my voice once again, express myself, and to make even more meaningful relationship with others. And since then, I have been experiencing care and love that I've never or refused to feel before. God has opened my heart to be the receiver instead of the giver. I feel everything is like fresh, as if God has given me a new set of eyes and restored heart, experiencing things for the first time again. Well, I've been blessed with wonderful people in my life. I've never actually engaged with fellow believers that discuss, mature, difficult, and deep topics. And so when I joined here, I love that the community are like gamers and share the same faith. And it enabled us to have a common ground and be more open to one another. I may be of the older age range, but to me, it feels like I'm the one being taken care of in this community. They have provided a safe space where I could grow in faith and have accountability. I've also met people with the same creative passion. Some of them I have collaborated with, and some of them have really boosted my creative juices. I am also happy to have the opportunity to serve God again with the skills and talents He has given me. And at the same time, in turn, He continuously showers me with inspiration just being around these amazing people. And I never really thought that I would encounter an online church, but I believe God is limitless and is everywhere. God has shown me many things that seemed impossible throughout my life so far, and finding an online church is just one of the great things God could use to further His kingdom. And before I end, with regards of my story and testimony, if you ever feel alone, weak, broken, and defeated, I want to encourage you with this verse from Psalms 34:18 to 22. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. The righteous person may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all. He protects all his bones, not one of them will be broken. Evil will slay the wicked, the foes of the righteousness will be condemned. The Lord will rescue his servants. No one who takes refuge in him will be condemned." Just to share that God sees and protects you always, even though you feel alone, and He is always with you. So hold steadfastly and keep the faith. And yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Angels. That was awesome. Thanks for sharing. And appreciate it. And we are going to try Axel. He's been having tech issues, so you want to test your mic, Axel? See if it's working.
Hello. 1,
Hello.
2. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do you hear any background noise?
Slightly,
No.
maybe? I slightly hear some.
Okay. I'm standing next to my fish tank to test it. You don't hear that at all.
Not really.
I don't hear it. There's water, but I think that's water in the our environment.
in the
Isn't it?
game.
So you're not able to show up in the game with us, Axel?
I had left. I had left when I restarted my computer earlier, so I'm not there. I
Okay.
can. I'll just head over there as I'm speaking. But
All right, no
I don't want
problem.
to hold this up any longer. So yeah. Um my name is Axel. I've been a believer in God practically all my life, as I was born and raised into a Christian family. Though it wasn't until several years ago that I actually gave my life to Christ and took my faith seriously. I have a deep love for God, His Word, as well as my friends and family, and as you can probably guess, video games, including Final Fantasy 14. And what led me to 14 and this community, a few years ago, I got a PC thanks to having a good job at work and being able to have the spending money to do so. And uh, eventually, I found Final Fantasy 14. I met a lot of people in it. Became a pretty big addiction for me. I'm not gonna lie. And after a series of unfortunate events, mostly which were my fault, I had to take a step away from 14 and my PC at the time in general. And um, I unsubbed from 14 and spent way less time gaming. As of the summer of 2023, I threw my first PC away, which I would later come to regret, while I was seeking God much more in this time and actively pursuing better habits. I found that something was still wrong. I remember when I would go to Lake Michigan with my family or a mall and arcade or shopping somewhere. I was very much still struggling with feeling alone everywhere I went. Loneliness was my shadow. It was with me wherever I went and in whatever I did. I would see friend groups and families hanging out at the mall, playing arcade games together and enjoying their company. And it made me realize I really needed a good Christian friend group. I prayed and prayed God would help me one as I clung to certain psalms like Psalm 42, um, and read verses about His provision and how we can ask Him for anything and we shall receive. One night, um, I got out of the shower and I basically I came to him and I asked him that I would try to meet some good Christian friends through online communities, like Final Fantasy 14. The reason it took me so long to come back was I felt a lot of condemnation for how hooked I was to it and other games on my PC before. But condemnation doesn't come from God. I kept mistaking condemnation and shame for his conviction, and anytime I would see someone's profile pic that had their Final Fantasy 14 character in it, I would shake my head and click away from the video, or if I saw like an ad or a sponsor, I would run away from it. And I was basically running away from my past. Um, I thought I was doing something good by running from my past, but after also hello, I'm here. Um, After I made a request to God to return games one more time and at least try it and maybe meet some friends, even if they're only online, I felt peace about trying the game and other games again, and I went for it. Thankfully, I never deleted my character from before. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Everything would be history, and I wouldn't be talking right now. In time, I realized God was leading me gently back to a game like this to meet the right people this time. Since then, I have found and joined 3 Christian servers. Started with me finding Sola, a gaming server that has Christian Final Fantasy 14 players in it. Then I found Followers of God, aka FOG, another Christian server. And I spent a good time with them. And then finally, sometime in the later half of last year, I found VR MMO Church. And the way I discovered them was one day as I was at work, I scrolled through my phone on YouTube, and I believe God um, intentionally made a video that caught my eye, a Final Fantasy 14 sermon, which at first I thought was a little corny and cheesy, but I could not have been more wrong. I listened to Pastor Coco's videos and began about the testimonies that happened at this time last year. Um, and this really intrigued me. So I joined the server and started showing up to the play sessions and services more often and grown much closer to them in that time span, I think. Speaking of, that is one of the ways I would say that VR MMO Church has changed my life since I met them. I feel that my mood and mental state, as well as my relationship with God, has improved a lot. I quickly began to get to know the folks in this community and found they actually had quite a bit in common with me. I was going through a pretty rough and lonely wilderness season in 2023, and here in VRMO Church, we had services talking about the wilderness season, and I knew I wasn't alone in how I felt. God truly blessed me with a loving and caring community of people who share the same interests I do and have had similar struggles that I have had. Um, God has blessed me with some wonderful people here who I am glad to call friends. I love that I have met a bunch of fellow video game, tabletop playing, anime and manga book reading nerds here in this community who also share a deep love for Jesus Christ. Um, I've had some deep conversations with a few folks here, and everyone is very supportive and encouraging when someone else could use it. I've also had a lot of casual, lighthearted fun with these people who accept me for the ADHD catboy nuisance that I am. Um, my life changed after meeting Christ several years ago. Um, since then, my life has changed and improved for the better in many ways. I feel far more loved and improved mentally and emotionally, especially now after meeting this church and this server. So because of that, I give him all the credit. He's done a lot for me. He's done a lot for me, and I give him all the glory for it. um, some might wonder if I ever saw myself attending an online church, and honestly, no. Uh, After struggling to find a legit and spiritually enriching church locally, I realized I should probably get more involved in this digital form of church and ministry more. The very blunt and brutal truth, the very blunt and brutal truth is, I have connected to God and other believers in this online and digital church way more than I ever have with the physical church. Um, it's kind of ironic. It's like I'm finding God in the last place that I would think to look, but here we are, and I think I'm finding Him more and more every day here. The modern day church is not honoring Christ and showing genuine faith in more ways than one. But with a church like, say, VR MMO church, I feel it's the opposite. Everyone here is genuine, faithful, and supportive, reflecting Christ-like values. So if you're looking for the same thing that I was looking for in a physical church, maybe try this church, even though it's online. My advice for that is pray about it, then try it. Just try it. Maybe that's how you will get your answer. Dip your toes in the water by actually getting involved and integrating yourself in this community. See if this is a place you really belong in, and give it a chance and see if this is where God has led you. And the last thing that I will say, God really does love you. He sees you and He knows your struggles. Talk to Him and make your requests known to Him, and He will hear you and provide for you. He did this for me. I know He can do the same for you. If you struggled with loneliness or going from friend group to friend group or being a failure in those friend groups, like I have, if you struggled with the same thing that I did that led to deep loneliness and heartache, know that He found a place for me where I belong. If He did that for me, He can and will do the same for you. And yeah, Jesus loves you. That's basically it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Axel. I'm glad you were able to share. And yeah, all of these stories have been very encouraging, and I hope that they've been encouraging to you. But we have one more story, and that is going to be Kinrath's.
Do we now? One more story?
Yeah, we do. Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. So those stories, those testimonies were really awesome to hear, guys. So thanks for sharing. I will try not to be long. So yeah, this time last year, actually, I shared a testimony, and you can find that video on the YouTube channel somewhere. I'm not going to share that whole testimony again. It was, yeah, pretty hefty. So if you want to check that out, you can. Funnily enough, the testimony of the Vieira character, the video that Angel mentioned, was my testimony video. So if you want to, yeah, see what that was about last year, you can yeah, look it up on the YouTube channel. But I'm going to share instead today about how my life has been since then, how my life has been this past year. So after joining VR MMO Church and getting involved, my life, it hasn't been easier, but it's been better in almost every way. I've met so many great people, and I've made so many amazing friends here. Actually, some of the people here, and those who shared their testimonies today, are actually results of the fruit of my obedience in getting involved in serving here. And I never considered that such a simple step of faith like that could have such a significant impact. It's crazy seeing it in real time. The group grow and people being drawn here and needing to hear what God put in the people here, in Pastor Coco and in me and in the other leaders, what God put in them that people need to hear and see. So going back a little bit, at the end of 2023, before I took that step of faith in getting involved, I prayed, and the Lord showed me that I was to help refine this ministry, whatever that meant. I didn't know what that meant. That's the word God gave me, refine. And I guess the only thing I could think that meant was just being someone who was available to help out wherever help was needed. And since then, God has been moving in my life in ways I would have never thought of before. I mean, for one, the fact that I've become a leader here and have been assisting Pastor Coco with speaking in every service for the past handful of months now, that's something pretty big that I never thought I'd be capable of doing. But, you know, God has a way of showing me otherwise. He's placed so many opportunities within my reach for every area of my life that I've had past struggles with. God is so good, and it's all been through this community and the connections that I've made. And like there are dreams that I've almost given up on that have been reignited with a fresh fire because the Lord has connected me with people here who share in those dreams and are now working toward making them a reality. Like, it's crazy how many pieces have fallen into place just by being obedient and taking a step of faith. And my whole perspective on life has changed significantly from when I last gave my testimony to now. My daily routines are better. I'm healthier, both physically and spiritually. My life has more structure. My mind is far less cloudy. And the struggles I used to have aren't struggles anymore. I'm just so thankful to God for all the friendships and bonds that I've formed with the members of this community, and the mentorship and the teachings of Pastor Coco and the other leaders that God has brought together here. I'm trying to contain my word count because there's so much I can say and there's so much I can be thankful for, and I can go on and on. But I guess to sum it up, I had a vision come to mind a few months ago about what it's been like for me this past year. It's like if I were a plant that grew and flourished in the previous ministry, the previous church that I was planted in, to the point where I met the limits of that pot, and I couldn't grow any bigger. Then the Lord uprooted, transferred, and replanted me into this ministry, a bigger pot with fresh soil and more room to grow. That's how it feels. Like this past year has felt, it's felt so much like a year of preparation because of that. I grew a lot. I learned a lot. I still am. And yeah, God is still using me in ways I never would have thought of before. I feel like my roots, my spiritual roots, are expanding and flourishing beneath the surface, as if getting prepared to make room for me to grow more above the surface. Like to prepare to bring outward what the Lord's been cultivating inward. I may not know exactly what's to come, but I know it's good because God is good and I trust him. And yeah, he's always come through. So yeah, little did I know that in the process of sending me here to help refine this ministry, God was actually working on refining me in that process. And it's been good. It's been better than I've ever imagined. I'm just so grateful to Jesus and what he's doing here. And these testimonies today are evidence of that. And yeah, as some of the others have said already, if you're hearing this and you're on the fence of joining this community or another digital church or ministry, I encourage you to just do it. But as Axel previously said, also pray as you do it. Come and see and experience what God is doing for yourself. Yeah, and I just want to thank everyone for being here and being awesome and taking this step in sharing your testimonies. I know it's not always an easy thing to have the spotlight on you, but it's been an honor this past year to have witnessed all of your growth in what God is doing here in your lives firsthand. And I want to just thank you all for all of your support and prayers over this past year. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what's to come in this new year and in this new season of life. It's going to be good. Regardless of what comes, I know God is going to come through. So yeah, that's about it. I guess I'll hand it back to Pastor Coco unless you want me to say more. I can.
Do you have more to say?
I think that's a dangerous
Good.
question. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you again, all of you. Kinrath, thank you for being willing to do what you feel that God is leading you to do, to push yourself beyond what you thought you were capable of doing. That's why I wanted you to tell your story again. That's why I Fallen told you instead of asking you if you wanted, because I wanted people to hear this and see that, yeah, your story matters. Your story is impacting other people. And as they tell their stories and step into what God has for them, their stories will impact more people. It is possible. You can make a difference. All of you can make a difference and an impact on other people's lives. You can make a difference and an impact in this world when you are faithful to what you are called to do. And every single one of you has a calling on your life. You may not know what it is, but you have one. And all last year, I know a lot of you weren't there yet, hadn't joined yet, but we went through an entire series of here's God's true character, because that's one thing that a lot of people we have a hard time understanding what is God's true character, because that is like, why would I want to serve a hateful God? Why would I want to serve a God who just wants me to obey him? That's an abusive God. That's a power controlling God. Why would I want to serve that? Understandably. So we started out by teaching you, here's God's true character and here's who you are in him, because we get confused about our identities in him as well and who we truly are. And you are a daughter or a son of the Most High God. You have a calling on your life. And we went through how you can identify that calling and step into it and multiply and flourish in that calling. But it requires you. I can't tell you what your calling is. You have to work with God to see it for yourself, and then take the step of faith to step into it, because none of us know where he's leading us. But if we trust him, he will lead us to really awesome things. And y'all can find all of those videos and discussions on YouTube and in the Bible Studies forums here in the Discord. If you go to the Bible Studies forum section, we have all those studies. They may look grayed out, but they're still active. You can still go in there, check them out, comment on them, add to them. They're still active. The Discord just doesn't have the best user interface for that stuff, but it's not over. It is continual. Continue. Feel free to go in there and look at those and do the work to figure out what is your calling, and take the faithful step of stepping into it, because I promise you, you won't regret it if you're faithful and you continue to believe that God is faithful. Because, yeah, I know I think I said this last time too. It's like back in the 90s, I was in the middle of the darkest part of my life, and I was praying to God. It's like, because I didn't feel worth anything. I didn't feel like I was going to make a difference. Nothing. And I prayed, I asked God, am I going to make an impact on the world? Am I going to make a difference in anyone's life? And I heard audibly, yes. And it was like a river of rushing water that was going to consume me. And I thought I was going to die. I didn't care. I just wanted to hear him again. And I'm seeing this come to fruition now. I'm seeing finally impact. And it took a very long time, because that was the 90s or early 2000s or something. It's been a while. But if you're faithful and you continue to believe and you continue to work, he will be faithful. And he's actually faithful regardless of whether or not we are. But it's your choice whether or not you step into your calling and live the life that he has for you, which is a much better life than the one that you've probably been struggling with. I was not planning to say any of that, but there you go. And yeah, I thank you all again for your testimonies and your stories. We're going to be doing that more. We're also going to start making testimony videos so that we can start hearing each other's stories and seeing the impact that God's having on people's lives, so that we can be encouraged and we can encourage others, which is part of what we're called to do. So if everyone, next time though, we are going to be studying again. We're going to be studying the topic of offense and forgiveness. And I will post the info in the Discord later today on that. So please look forward to that study. And we'll continue talking off stream like we usually do. That's part of what makes this community so impactful, is that we actually are going to get together off stream and have deeper discussions about what's going on. And I invite all of y'all to join. If you're in Discord, join us in Discord. Those on Twitch that are watching this, if you want to join us in Discord, if you go to vrchurch.org, you look for the Discord logo. It's all over the place. You can join our Discord and join our discussion offline in the Final Fantasy chat. And everyone in game, look at the Lalafell. and come up front and look at the Lalafell and wave to the Lala, because that's gonna say bye to Twitch.
He's so short.
Bye Twitch. Don't slap the Lala. And don't slap the Lala, you're
Don't.
slapping the people on Twitch.
Oh, he
Yes,
pet,
show them love.
he pet. Them. All right. Bye, Twitch.
Bye Twitch.